Hello, welcome to Santa's Grotto. I hope that you'll be able to see me and that you'll be able to see the table, because what we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to make a Christmas garland. It doesn't matter if you can't see me as long as you can see what's going on the table. So what we're going to make is a fresh evergreen garland that you can keep over Christmas. Might be a bit early to put it over the mantelpiece just now, but I'm going to start with this. It's just over a metre long, and this is actually the handle from a flower bag, so it's a bit thicker than normal string. It's like you could use old-fashioned washing line rope, that kind of thing. So rope, so you're going to need a piece of rope. You're going to need a reel of wire, bind wire or reel wire. This is a little bit tougher than some of the decorative stuff you might have used, much more practical. And a mixture of evergreens. It's down to you. You could just use holly and ivy and stick to that, but I like a nice mixture for texture, and also we're going to be visited by the chickens, I'm afraid. But so what we've got here is we've got bay, ivy, some rosemary, variegated euonymus, bits of Christmas tree. In fact, anything that's evergreen in your garden or the hedgerow that you can find that you like the look of. And then before you do anything else with it, you need to snip it into little sections. So you see here little pieces of evergreen, and then pull off whatever is at the bottom. And having done that, get yourself a big pile, because you're going to need a lot. This bit here is not going to make a great deal of the garland. This is quite a long job. When you've done that and you've got them all prepared and ready, snip a lot of little bits of wire. So it's probably 6 inches or so, and then you take 3 or 4 bits of whatever evergreen you're using, having stripped the bottom, and make a lot of little bunches, lots and lots of little bunches. Just tie them together with your wire and put them all in a heap like this. And as I say, best way to do it is a bit like a production line. Snip all your evergreens, which of course you've conditioned nicely, then snip all your bits of wire, so you've got a pile of bits of wire, and then make your next little pile of little bunches ready to go to make the actual garland itself. So I'm just going to pretend that I've made enough, although I know I haven't, so I probably won't get very far. And then with your reel wire in one hand, secure that to the end of the garland. And now you've got to think about what you want to do here, because you might like to put a loop here, and I would attach it to the end of the rope and then make a little loop like that. Give yourself a bit of extra wire, so you could hook it somewhere if you were not just going to drape it over the mantelpiece, but if you actually needed to hook it somewhere. And then I would wrap it round again, so that I've secured it and given myself a loop with which to hang it. And then, starting with whatever it is you like, lay your evergreen across the top and pull twice. That is the very first piece going on. Let's get that out of the way. And then you work along the rope, so you can see what I mean by saying that this is going to be no small task. This is an afternoon, preferably in the garden, because you make a devil of a mess, all on your little lonesome, with a reel of wire and a pile of evergreens. The only thing is that I would say that when you've done it, it's seriously worthwhile. You're ending up with a back, as it were, that will lay flat, and a front. Now holly, just let me say, this is fabulous. It's got so many berries on it, but there is absolutely no point in tying that to another piece of anything. So I'm just going to use that one section on its own. Go round twice every time and yank, because you want it to bite into the stems that you're attaching, so that when you attach them, they are firmly attached, and you're using one to one side, one to the other side, all the way along. Continual piece of wire so that it won't come apart, or at least that's the plan. You see, I've put a bit of rosemary in here because it smells nice, and if you do put that on the fireplace, it might just dry rather than going nasty and dying off. And also I've got some bay. Now that piece of holly is really dominant, so I'm actually building up this side a bit more than I would do normally, so that I can get a bit of a balance to that big chunk of holly. And then I've got some box that definitely needed a bit of a trim to tidy up the box balls, so we'll go with that a couple of times until we get to the end of what I've got. And I'm doing it rather randomly. You may choose to do this differently. You may choose to create a pattern. If you really want to, you can create a pattern. Try and get everything butted up to the next piece in front so that you haven't got any big gaps. So that, oh, I don't want another piece of holly there. So you've got to look and see what you want and where you want it. Let's have a little bit more of the lovely hedge that everybody hates. Everybody's favourite hedge to hate. So keep going, and you're tying in the wire as well that you've used, so don't clip it off, just keep going with the wire. Put that bit of rosemary in there. And you will use a lot of stuff. When I've done this, I have done this well ahead of Christmas, and we are already well ahead of Christmas at the moment. When I've done this before, I have kept it outside in order to keep it fresh, because it will keep outside like a wreath on your door for weeks and weeks on end. Also, I found a little bit of purple hebe, which is quite pretty. It'll keep for a very, very long time. So you can make this now if you want to, get ahead and all that stuff. Put it outside, maybe in a shed or somewhere. Spray it occasionally if you want to make sure it stays fresh. And it'll be fine. It will still look great if you don't bring it in until the week before Christmas. It'll still look absolutely great. So, as I say, you can see that this is a time-consuming job. I've so far, and I'm working reasonably quickly, only managed to make, what have we got here? So 8 inches or so. So I'm going to just finish with what I've got before I show you how to decorate it. So I won't go to the end of the whole metre, or you'll all have nodded off or wandered off to make a cup of tea. I think I might have done if it was me. Have that bit of variegated in there, because we haven't had any variegated for a while. That's it. And again, you see I'm surrounded by stuff. It's we're down at the bottom of my garden in the summer house in the summer, and Santa's grotto at this point. It's turning into Santa's grotto anyway. So make it look quite thick. The thicker you make it look, the more opulent it is. And of course, since we're doing it ourselves, we can afford to make it look opulent. If you buy this sort of thing from the florist, it costs you an arm and a leg, basically because of the amount of labour involved. And frankly, it's highly unlikely that you'll get one that has as much interest in it as one that you make yourself, having chosen the foliage from the garden. Just give that an extra twist because it's a little bit long. There's a bit of viburnum there as well. That's flowering at the moment, so it looks lovely. It's got those tight buds in that lovely pinky colour, so it looks really pretty just now if you find any in the garden or in the car park in my case. That is a big chunk, so I'm actually going to put that right up to there like that. Just get that round. Get my leaf out of the way. Pull, and then I've just got left a bit of variegated euonymus and a little bit of fir. So just pop the fir on. So you can see that all that I've used there, quite a lot of material, has only taken me to probably a foot or so of garland. And you can see what's happening on the back here now. The rope is going continually through all the little bunches, and the wire is all the way through the little bunches. So you end up eventually with something that looks like that, and it really is quite extraordinary. It's a beautiful thing. I've got a little bit of wire already cut, so I'll just pull together. Now, just as a matter of interest, my little bunches were all individual varieties of stuff. So it was a little bunch of box, little bunch of euonymus, little bunch of holly, little bunch of ivy, etc. But if you want to make them little mixed bunches, that's fine. It's really up to you. It doesn't matter in the slightest. So that's a little mixed bunch, which I can just add on. There's one extra there. Now then, I'm going to show you what you can use in the way of decoration, and then I'll pop the decoration in, and you can have an idea as to how it might look when it's finished. But when I have finished it, because I will do quite a lot more of it this afternoon, I'll pop a photograph on of the finished article. So I would be using a few pine cones, and I'm just going to show you how to wire one. Here's one I've wired already. This is a straightforward ordinary pine cone, and this is stub wire. It's fairly firm, so you push the end of the wire in between, I don't know what you call them, the fins. Hold it with your thumb and wrap it round the base of the cone and bring it back to where it started, so where it was on the tree. Put your thumb on that, bend it up. So you've now got a long piece of wire and a very firmly attached pine cone. That's that. Orange slices, I buy them commercially. You can, if you want, or you can dry them on the radiator or in a slow oven. It smells delicious, but it's quite easy to burn them if you're putting them in the oven, so be careful. I usually do 2 at a time. Push the wire through the 2 slices close to the edge, and then fold it back on itself and just twist. Twist, 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 twist. So there's a nice little bit of orange. Then what else might you use? Some cinnamon, possibly. A couple of cinnamon sticks. I tend to do it this way round. Get a bit of raffia. Get a little bit of raffia. 2 together. Tie it round. Snip that bit off. It's up to you whether you want to just do a knot or a bow. Just going to do a knot for simplicity's sake. Tie it nice and firmly. Snip it off. And then take another wire, these little stub wires, and push it up through between the two pieces of cinnamon, and bend it back on itself, and then twist again. And that should hold that nice and firmly as well. So those are the traditional things. In addition to that, if you have them, you can use something like these lovely, lovely, lovely crab apples. I would take 2 or 3 of those at a time. So I'll pull 3 off if I can. Another stub wire. What would we do without wires? And then feed them through the middle of the apples. You can either do it with them joined together like this. If you can manage to keep them joined together, they look quite cute with the stems on. And then 3 together, push, push, push through the wire, and then bend that if you can, and twist again. So there we've got some crab apples, some orange, some pine cones, and some cinnamon. Very, very traditional. If you want to go a little bit bling, if you know how to do this, you'll think, oh yeah, right. If you don't know how to do this, you might think, oh, I wish somebody told me that years ago. I remember the first time somebody told me how to make a bauble work. Who wants to wire a bauble? Don't wire a bauble. Push a piece of stem into a bauble like that. This is much easier if you're doing foam. If you're not, then you've got to pretend that you are actually a florist and wire that, but you've got a stem, as opposed to trying to wire the whole of the actual bauble, because they end up wobbling all over the place. So then just wire it down so that you can poke it in through, and you might like to do that as a little cluster. So I might do it as a little cluster. So here's another one. course, this involves rummaging in the bin so that you can find some stems to do it with. Pull off anything that's growing on it. That might be a bit loose, it is. So because that's a bit loose, poke another piece down the side of it, and that will secure it. And then do exactly the same again with another stub wire. Take it round the base of the bauble, pull it down and twist the whole lot together, so that you've got 2 or 3 together. They look nicer than they do singly, unless you're using big ones or something a bit fancier. And just there, you rummage again, rummage, bit of this. That's what our dustbins are for, rummaging in. Poke that into there if it'll go. That might actually be the other way around. One too thin, one too fat, so that's fine. And again, twist it around the base of the bauble, bring it down and go around the whole stem. Oh, that's a bit sticky out. Oh, actually I think I might have cracked that bauble, but I don't think you'd notice, so we won't worry about it. Once it's in there, I don't think you'd notice. So what you do with these then is you take the wires, push it right through your entire garland, and it will come out on the other side here. So push that in. As I said, I'm going to nestle 2 or 3 of these together because I think they look better in a cluster. And then when you get the wire through, if you can, you're going to have to fiddle with it a bit to get it in, because it's a bit of a so-and-so, because hopefully you've done it nice and tightly so that it is going to be a bit of a so-and-so. You actually want it to be a bit of a so-and-so. Pull them through together and give them a good twist on the other side, and then you can sort them out later as long as you've got them fastened in. Bring them down sideways, and then we'll pop a pine cone in. Same thing here, push it in straight through, if you can, through where you've put your wiring, etc., so it's really secure. And we'll have the oranges next. Oranges, I wouldn't put the oranges in until the last minute if you're going to put this outside, because they will get damp and they will go soggy. So if you're going to put them in now, you need it to be indoors. If you're going to put them in later, that's fine, but don't put them out. Don't put, oh, very good. Don't put soggy oranges. They might dry out again on the top of your fireplace, I suppose, but I wouldn't. Just go get one I did previously, then you don't have to watch me faff about with that. Here's one I did previously. So push that through, and you can, as well as all of that, I mean, that is looking really fabulous and superbly opulent now if you look at it. You can, if you want, add to it. I haven't got anywhere to put the apples, have I? Just imagine they're in the end. You can add ribbons if you like to make it look even more pretty, or you can just leave it as it is. I think it looks lovely like that, just across the top of the fireplace. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish that off, or finish a lot more of it off. I may not do the entire meter because I don't really need the whole thing now. And then I'm going to take a photograph of it when the whole thing is finished, and you can have a look and see for yourself. But basically, that is how to make a Christmas garland. Good luck, and of course, any questions, please ask. I'll just come and switch you off.